Hello there, my name is Kuma, and today we are taking a close look at Fuze.
Chaos is only an enemy if you're unable to adapt, right? Let me know if you need anything. No, my comms equipment's fine. Nothing to worry. At your command.
Fuze is a Centurion, an AoE guard, and the welfare from the second Rainbow Six collab. This class is pretty straightforward. They have block 3 at E2, can attack a number of enemies equal to their block count. That means you can even increase or decrease the number of targets they hit. And for the most part, they all have some kind of survivability in their kit, something defensive. And this can be something simple as having plus defense in the talent, like Savage or Broca, having healing like Blaze and Estelle, or something more fancy like Spectre's skill 2 turning her immortal for a few seconds. Fuze, surprisingly, considering how the other characters in the collab were, very much follows this rule. He has ranged physical resist coming from his talent, and also a little bit of defense on his module. Resist is the weird type of damage mitigation that everyone gets lost over at some point, so let me explain it real quick. Resist works kinda like dodge, where the operator won't take the incoming damage, but it's a different effect that applies before dodge does. If you look closely, you can see when resist triggers. The operator gets an animation of a shield being broken. But of course, status effects like stun and debuffs go through even if you dodge or resist the damage. You will find resist in other operators like Oshiguma and Kautsit. This is not exclusive to Fuze. And in practice, this doesn't really differentiate from dodge. It's just something else you can stack. So for all intensive purposes, Fuze has 35% dodge against ranged attacks, and yes, ranged attacks only. But it's resist. And as far as gameplay goes, Fuze also doesn't really steer away from the playstyle of Centurions, and we'll have a close look at that in a moment. Because that is only true when you don't take his skill 2 into consideration. So let's start there. Fuze's skill 2 is the same skill he has in Rainbow Six. He places a cluster charge on a wall and it launches explosives in a spread. This is very gimmicky and depends on how the stage designer was feeling for it to work or not. But as we always do around here, let's focus on how to make it work and how it performs when it does work. Because I can assure you, it's not a big deal to keep an eye out for favorable deploy tiles for Fuze. Like, come on, you learned how to spot different tiles after all. The process isn't any different. You'll see a ranged tile with an enemy lane on one side, and a deployable tile on the other, and boom! Fuze tile! You can even set up your own Fuze tiles on Reclamation algorithm if you want to play that mode. The craftable ranged tiles there do work with his skill too. But I'm sure you want to know about the damage this skill does. And well, that's also complicated. Because here's the thing. Fuze places down 5 explosives, and each of them has a splash range. That means the explosions can overlap, but that also depends if the enemy is moving or not, for example. So the total damage of the skill will depend on how many times your target is hit. If I tell you the minimum damage potential this skill has, you will see absolutely nothing in it, because it's only 4300 damage. That's how little Fuze will deal if a single explosive hits the target. Most of the time though, you will see at least 2 explosions hitting the same enemy, going up to 8600 damage, and in theory, he could hit all 5 for 21,000 damage. But clearly the idea here isn't dealing with single targets. If you have a bigger crowd, then the total damage becomes worth it real quick. Even if the elites mangled with the rest of the small enemies won't necessarily die to this skill without any buffs, Fuze will still do a sizable chunk to them, but he won't be exploding anything with a large HP bar. I always say this, high damage per hit doesn't necessarily make you good at dealing with high defense enemies. Sometimes you simply don't have enough total skill damage. This is one of the reasons I find important to calculate the skill damage potential. But Fuze not being capable of soloing chunky elites isn't that big of a negative for him, since you will be hitting more enemies and making up for it. And honestly, it can even excuse the 30-second cooldown between activations, because you will not have Arknights throwing massive waves at you that quickly. The way this skill works make it really nice for playing with slow supports, your Manticore, Suzuran, Arf Spirit, and anything capable of area slow really. But it is important to keep in mind that Fuze's skill 2 has an activation limit per deploy, 3 times. This is because of Rainbow Six flavor, but it works just as another incentive to bunch up enemies instead of using the skill on a single target. And of course, since it is per deploy, if you retreat Fuze and deploy him again, you can use the skill another 3 times, it's just something to keep in mind. But here's the thing though, Fuze's skill 2 has a massive 480% modifier. And you know what that means. Fuze is great for meme kills with buffs. Some bosses don't really have that much HP, and with the right setup, you can delete them real good. I wouldn't recommend going for it every time, but you gotta admit it's funny. And you know what else is a boss with low HP just like that? The mystery enemy from last video! Congratulations to everyone who said Kirsten in the comments. You got it right. It's kinda funny how she was one of the squishiest enemies in her event, thanks to the shield mechanics they had. As for the mystery enemy in this video, it's a unique enemy. I'm sure a lot of you will get it right down in the comments. But while you make your predictions, let's get back to Fuze. Because on his S1, Fuze isn't gimmicky at all. This skill is the embodiment of AoE guards, except maybe that Fuze can hit drones, with or without the skill active. Something all the Rainbow Six characters can do, because they have guns. By the way, his skill 2 can't hit air, maybe this is important to note, the explosions will not hit drones. But when playing with Fuze's S1, you will have a solid Centurion who you can deploy in the corner, give some perfumer healing from the other side of the map just for safety, and forget about him. You can move on with your day, test out your new Patriot kill and whatever else you have in mind. And to some extent, I do mean forget, because this skill has a great cycle. With a 45 SP cost, Fuze gets 100 bullets. Yes, this is an ammo skill. If he never stops firing, the cycle will be 6345, and that is amazing! It's a whole minute attacking before going back to downtime. Rosa and Keobi wish they could have a cycle like that. I'm just bringing this up because they also have 60-second uptimes, obviously they are not comparable. But as for the stats, Fuze gets an extra tile of range in front of him, a 30% attack increase and plus 90 ASPD. It's this ASPD that makes it possible for Fuze to shoot 100 bullets in 63 seconds. And as I said, in this skill, Fuze will do what you would expect a Centurion to do. He will hold lanes, he won't mind too much if some elites show up even though his attack doesn't go very high, so defenders will take a while to kill. But since he has block 3, he can sit there chipping away at the defenders while still clearing out the trash. And of course, he will meet his demise if something with too much attack comes along. He is comfy. He is an operator that you can default to bring into every stage really, just like you would with a Spectre or a Stel. As for how much damage Fuze can ditch in this skill, that goes up to 117,000 damage on a single target without buffs. That's a solid 1400 DPS. Although, he won't be dealing damage as quickly as Spectre or Broca would with their skills. Fuze leans much more into a solid playstyle, without anything fancy going on. You don't really want Fuze blocking a boss, especially if it's a tanky one. But having almost double his normal ASPD, of course buffs come to mind, but it's actually not enough for high burst to be appealing. And with such a high skill duration, it's much more comfortable to be picky with your buffs and help him hold lanes. Skills with long duration like Sora, Scadialter or Virtuosa will be a great pairing. But that's it for Fuze. Leave me a comment with your opinions on him in the comments. I do think he's a solid pick for any occasion, and a great meme with his S2. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed the review, and I hope everyone has a very nice day. Peace out!